I am on a quest to find the best intro of all time, whether it be from a TV show, a video game, or a movie. And the next TV show that I have come across along this journey is none other than the HBO adaptation of the deep storytelling and beloved video game, The Last of Us. Seeing as how Season 2 is soon to be released next spring, and given that Season 1 exceeded a lot of people's expectations, I felt it appropriate to choose The Last of Us as my next intro review. Now forget trying to compare the TV show to the video game for a second. When you look at the show as its own entity without comparing it to the video game, The Last of Us is a wonderfully dark, gloomy, depressing, and yet hopeful post-apocalyptic drama. I've actually been a huge fan of Pedro Pascal since he played a DEA agent in Narcos, and seeing him portray Joel in HBO adaptation's The Last of Us just felt like the perfect fit for this role. I could go on and on about the mostly pros and limited cons of this TV show, but if you're familiar with my videos, that is not the purpose of my review. My review is purely based on the opening credits or intro to each episode, and to ultimately determine whether or not it is a good intro. To help me rate this intro, I will be looking at 3 specific categories. Those 3 categories are the music or sound, the storytelling, and how captivating as a whole the intro is. I will give each of these categories a score out of 10, and then add all these scores up to get a final average score. And if there's something extra special about this intro that just doesn't fit into any of these categories, but helps elevate it in some way, then I will be awarding bonus points as well. So sit back, get comfortable, relax, and enjoy another Too True SMEG review. So let's begin with the music. For those of us who've played the video game, it shouldn't be any surprise that the HBO intro to The Last of Us contains the same exact theme song, because what the video game was able to do in terms of music alone was a masterpiece. So watching this intro, when we first hear what I think is pronounced the remarkably, which is basically a small 10-string guitar, fans are already starting off to a great start and opinion of this show because the music brings back a flood of wonderful memories. And for those who've never played the video game and are just listening to this theme song for the first time, they're given a dark, old western-like vibe, which is intriguing. What makes this music excellent is that it conveys the survivalist, dark, fragile, and post-apocalyptic feelings and tones seen throughout the show within this short, minute-long theme song. But yet throughout this mix of emotions, it conveys almost a quiet beauty that suggests a flicker of hope and humanity, even in the most dark of times. This music touches the audience's soul and sticks with the viewer. Credit must be given to Gustavo Santaolalla, the composer and musician for this song, because what he is able to do in this single song is pure artistry. Now normally this type of praise would earn a straight up 10 out of 10, no question, for the music category. However, a point does have to be docked here, not because the song isn't good, but because the music in the opening credits is only about a third of the entire song from the video game, which is unfortunate because it deprives the audience from experiencing the full magnitude and magic of this theme song. So the score we will have to give the intro to HBO's The Last of Us for music and sound must be 9 out of 10. Time for the storytelling. From my experience, TV shows don't typically have the best storytelling when it comes to the intro. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing either. There could be legitimate reasons behind not having a long intro full of storytelling, such as wanting to spend more time allotted to the episode itself. When it comes to HBO's The Last of Us, it's actually one of the better storytelling intros out there. Throughout the entire minute-and-a-half long intro, there's the fungus, the cordyceps, spreading everywhere, almost like a virus, infecting everything it touches. So right away, without any context to what the show is about, we get an idea that there's some sort of infection spreading across the world. What adds to this further is that the fungus creates images throughout this opening. You can see at one point the fungus creates an image that looks like a map of the United States, with highlighted areas of the fungus spreading like wildfire, suggesting that these areas are probably where it spread first. Another storytelling aspect of this intro that isn't so obvious is when the fungus sprouts into what looks to be like a large cityscape, further suggesting the scale and impact this fungus is having on modern civilization. At another point, you can see the fungus sprouting from what looks to be a dead face on the ground, and then finally at the end, the fungus creates an image of 2 people standing or wandering side by side. Without the benefit of knowing what this show is about, one could probably make some accurate inferences about what the show is about, as the fungus gives many hints to it. What's even more remarkable is that this is done with absolutely no dialogue or lyrics. The images portrayed on screen show that there's a post-apocalyptic event taking place, with some sort of virus or fungus infecting the human race. With a closing image of the two people standing side by side, it tells us that the show probably revolves around two people wandering through this new post-apocalyptic world. While the storytelling aspect is beautifully artistic here, we do have to admit that it takes a lot of inferencing and guessing to make all of these details out. Unfortunately, for someone who has no clue whatsoever what this show is about, it can be a bit difficult for them to understand the full story being told in this intro. So for all of these reasons, the score we will be giving The Last of Us intro for storytelling is 8 out of 10. And lastly, we've come to the final category. How captivating is the intro as a whole? When looking at this category, we're really just looking at if we get bored and want to skip it, and if so, what aspects of the intro cause us to be bored. If not, then the goal is to identify why we don't want to skip it and why the intro keeps our attention. We've already discussed the music in depth and how it creates a melancholy-like theme, but yet hopeful as well. The music alone is so excellent to the point that it makes us want to hear the entirety of it, which adds to the captivating score. Another aspect that keeps our attention are the beautiful and artistic images of the fungus spreading, growing, and taking over everything it touches. So there's a few things working in favor of the intro that keeps us entertained. Now, are there boring aspects? Yeah, for sure. When watching this several times over again, the first 10 to 15 seconds and the last 10 to 15 seconds are the most entertaining, visually speaking. After we see the cityscape image of the fungus I mentioned earlier, the visual images get a little bit boring. Now that's not to take away from the incredible detail and beautiful images of the fungus, because the graphics here are very well done and incredibly detailed, but there's simply just not much going on. The middle 30 seconds are a bit stagnant and boring. The music is essentially carrying the intro in the captivating category. So the score we will have to give the intro for captivating is 6 out of 10. While the intro is overall great, the captivating aspect of this intro falls a bit short. In all honesty, if it weren't for the music here, there would be nothing holding on to our attention in the middle of this intro, hence the somewhat lower score. So in conclusion, the total score for The Last of Us intro is 23 out of 30, which averages out to 7.67 out of 10. Not the highest score we've ever seen, but nowhere near the lowest score we've seen or that we'll see in the future. My final thoughts on this intro. I think that without the music, this intro would be just another boring intro to a TV show that has no significant impact on its viewers or audience. The music is, dare I say it, iconic at this point, especially to the video game fans, and as I mentioned earlier, it totally carries this intro. So while the intro is not one of my personal favorites, I could listen to the music all day long. But again, the theme song isn't the full song that we've heard in the video game, so even that falls a bit short. Overall, it's an average intro, which the score reflects. To be clear, this intro score is not reflective of the show as a whole. I personally love this show and would give the show a much higher score than a 7.6, but again, we are just reviewing the intro here. If you disagree with this score, please leave a dislike and let me know in the comments why. If you have an intro to a TV show that you really would love to see a review of next time, let me know in the comments and I'll be sure to add that to my list of shows to review next. And lastly, if you enjoyed this type of content, please consider subscribing so that you can continue to see more of these reviews. Anyways, thanks for those of you who made it to the end and sticking around for another Too True SMEG review. Until next time.